All right guys, welcome back. This is another quick video showing you how to tie this leader setup that is so dialed in. I'll explain to you real quick why it's dialed in and why I'm going to make changes to that setup periodically due to the barometric pressures, water flows, and stuff like that. So first, let's go ahead and start with this main float that I came up with and this hook size. Okay, the importance of these, as I tested this in water compared to other hook sizes and other size floats, including this one, until I had a chart where I knew exactly where they were all floating at with different buoyancy levels. Then I tested them back to back on all the different river systems and all the different high populated areas of people catching fish. I went down until I could get this dialed in with leader length, size, and buoyancy till I was catching more fish than everybody else or going back to back with the best of them. At that point, you guys, I started sharing with you guys and created a YouTube channel and started enjoying helping other people, which turned into a lot more. And here we are today, shooting more videos and helping people learn how to tie this setup and adjust by using other types of floats to help the buoyancy under different conditions to catch more fish. The barometric pressure plays a big part in that. So for your basic barometric pressure days, when that pressure is steady and it's been good for 24 hours, steady, high, low, or medium, those fish get active again, and that's when this setup is going to really have an opportunity to get you into more fish because it floats right at their face and eye level. Just above eye level is where I have this set up to bounce and float through the water. So those fish strike at it, they pick it up, it goes down the back of their throat all the time because it's so minuscule and small, and we use the scents like smelly jelly and sand shrimp to entice the strike on these fish. When you're using these types of things to add the smell with a yarn and a small minuscule looking bug-like thing, and it looks like a small bug or an egg, and you have egg smell on it, the success rate goes up higher and higher and higher. The bigger you make your bait, the less you put smell on, the lower your success rate goes down, because when that bait's not minuscule, those fish will turn their head. They're not going to smack at it, suck it in, and spit it out. As you'll see in my videos, a lot of times I pull these things up and that hook is down on the back of their tongue. That could not be flossed into their mouth, which is where the line gets caught in their mouth and hooks them on the outside of the face or somewhere in that area. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to tie this fly looking leader setup. And we already went over in a lot of our videos. All my videos are going to show you to put smells on these. You'll see how many times I do it, or you can crush real egg smells on there. And this is going to help you get into more fish just by knowing that you want to use those scents. Now what I did for my leader length, I'm going to go anywhere from 7.5 feet down to 2 feet. And the reason I start at 7.5 feet and I pre-tie all my stuff at 7.5 feet is because it's easy to trim down. All I have to do if I see a water column that's shorter than what I want it to be in, or the barometric pressures and those fish are down lower, I can just trim that down quickly and tie it onto my setup. If it's too short, you have to sit there and tie a whole new setup. So go ahead and start them at 6 to 7 feet. 7.5 seems to be one of the best lengths that I enjoy catching fish at, all the way down to, like I said, 2 feet, whether it's bobber and eggs or just drifting a scent and a smell through there to get a fish so you can get bobber and eggs going on your next trip. So what I did is I measured this out on a tape measure, and then I found a way to measure it on my body. So if I go a full pull like this and then bring this to the center of my chest and do a half arm pull where my elbow is into my side like this, that's 7.5 feet. Now I pull off an extra couple inches for one knot, couple inches for another knot, and I go ahead and cut it right there. And now I don't have to sit there and use a tape measure. I just very quickly pull the leader off and you're on to the next one. And the faster you do this, obviously, the more you're going to get tied and the more efficient you're going to be out on the water, which is a very, very important thing, not to be tying these up on the water if you don't get a fish a lot. If you get a fish a lot, you're out there all the time, go ahead and sit there and tie up leaders. But Again, I'm going to tell you this. Fish come through in schools, and they don't do it all day long, all year long. So if you're sitting there tying leaders, and your buddy starts catching fish, and you get your leader done, and you go start trying, and you don't catch any fish, it's because you didn't have them pre-tied, and those fish came through while you were tying, and now they're gone. So pre-tie your leaders, up your odds, and catch more fish. Here you go, guys. This is what we're doing. I'm going to take this leader right here, and I'm going to hold it with these two fingers. You can develop a way to hold this however you want. This is just a basic cinch knot. Okay, so I'm going to hold it like this. I like to wrap it around my finger like that because then it can't slide around. And I'm going to have that middle of that line is just right there in my hand. I'm going to take the hook and just hook it right over the end of the shank, over the end of the hook part right there. Now, go ahead and use your teeth if you need to. Get at least an inch or so out on the end so you have room to spin it without it pulling out of your fingers. Now you're just going to twist it. 1, 2, hold it. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Okay, so you just spin it 7 times. If you have a sponge, you can sponge it. You can lick it or dip it down, or you can dip it down in the water and then pull it back up and tie it if you have a cup of water or a bowl or you're at the river. Then you go ahead and grab that. And once you grab that, you go ahead and pull it tight like this. And you see how it cinches down? When it starts, I stop because it stopped pulling. It stopped cinching. At that point, you're going to burn the line if you force it. So go ahead and take your fingers and gently pull it, and you'll feel it move a little bit. And then go ahead, what I do is I go ahead and put it between my fingers like this, and then I give it another hard pull, and you can feel it cinch down more. You can see how that knot is cinched even more. And then pull it with my fingers again, and I felt it move again, guys. Now go back to here and give it a good pull again, really hard. And then I go that again, double, triple check, really hard. Now make sure that knot looks just like that, nice and twisted, perfect little round circles around itself, okay? And here there's no fraying in the knot because we helped it cinch down, and we wet it so that it wouldn't burn the line. And you'll see little wrinkles get in there if it burns the line. Now this part's important because if this knot slips and you cut this too close, it's going to come undone and you're going to lose a fish. So leave a good little 1/4 inch on there. It's not going to hurt anything. Now go ahead and take your hook, turn it around, and grab your main line, and grab it and pull it down, and get the tag end, the tip of it. Okay, and now you're going to go ahead and put your float on. I like to use black. People wonder why I use the black so much. Black looks a lot more like the bugs that are in our natural rivers in the state of Washington. You've got crawdads and those types of bugs and beetles and stuff like that. This with a little piece of red yarn on it is going to look a lot more like a bug, you see here, than most of the other stuff you're going to see in the water. So with my red setups that you see on my pre-tie over here, I'm going to usually use my egg smell on there. And with my darker ones, I'm going to usually use that sand shrimp smell. Sometimes I'll still put egg smell even on this dark black one, and it works just fine. So I want to make sure that you guys saw how I did that. It's not difficult. You're just going to take that end of the line, of your main leader line, and you're going to go through the hole on the cheater. Okay, just like this, and you're going to take the main line, and then you're going to go back through the eye of the hook. Now I'm going to say something about the hook real quick. You see the angle of this eye right here? Okay, how it's got an angle? It's very important that if you're going to switch from this exact hook, this very exact hook, if you're not going to get this hook, make sure it's got a bent eye in it like that, so that when you pull this up and tighten up your cheater like this, it sits straight up and down like that. This part is very, very important. If it's not sitting straight up and down at a weird angle, then it's not going to really want to hook into those fish the right way, okay? So sometimes I'll even take it and put a little, snap a little thing in there like that and see how nice it hangs, okay? And this is actually an egg loop as well. Now all you're going to do here is take your yarn. I like to use the skinny yarn. Take a piece of skinny yarn. Well, actually, this is a black cheater, so I'm going to go ahead and go with, this is a black cheater, so we're going to go ahead and go with the red instead of the black. And I'm just going to twist that yarn up like this so it's easier to tie into a little knot, okay? Now you're going to go back on the bottom side of your cheater so it looks like a tail or some wings. You're going to take and just roll that over itself just one time. That's it. No big knot. It's just a little half tie knot like you're tying your shoelace. That first little half knot, and that's it. Pull it tight. And then what you're going to do now is trim that down. And what I do is I hold my fingers on there like that and keep about a 1/4 inch in there. And then I'll trim that down like this. And then you take this and just fluff it up. Take it and just give it a good little fluffing just like that. Voila. You now have your killer fly. Now take that and dip that into this nice gooey stuff, or take and put a squirt of this on there, and you are going to catch more fish, you guys. Why? Because the buoyancy of this is going to bounce this right in front of the fish's eyes, and those fish are going to smack at it. The other thing that happens with these leaders and the fish is it will incidentally get caught in their mouth, and if that happens, when the fish feels it and sees this coming at it, it's not going to turn its head away from it. It's going to turn its head towards it as if this is causing an attack towards it, and it's going to aggressively bite it, which this comes back on the inside of its tongue. So the flossing method that happens with my setups typically entices a strike, like tickling the inside of an alligator's mouth, and it's going to close on your hand, instead of it actually catching it on the outside of the face, which it will also do. Incidentally, it's just something that happens whether you're using jigs, bobbers with 2 beads, or whatever you're doing. It's a legal fish to keep if it's foul hooked from the gill plate forward. So we're not yanking, we're using bait, we're setting this up to look like flies, and we are getting a lot more fish by drift fishing and actually detecting those bites with the slider weights. We just tied this yarn on here. I hope this helps you guys out. Like I said, you just pull this out here, just like that. Pull the knot to the top, pull this out, put your eggs on, slide your eggs on here 2 times, and then cinch this knot back up when you put your eggs on there and have your little egg loop. And this is also the setup I used for my eggs. My drift setup, my weight setup, is everything is the same for my eggs and my bobber. The only difference is I will not drift a 1/0 hook because that snags fish too easily. Sometimes I'll use a 1/0 to get it, or a 1 to get it down lower. And most of the time we're using a size 4, which is plenty big enough to get those fish to smack it because it's small and minuscule, because we really don't want to snag them in the side of the head or the side of the body, tail, or the belly. And these bigger hooks tend to do that. When they snag them, they don't let go, they bury in. These typically just pop off when you snag into a fish with a small number 4 hook. It doesn't stay in there, and it doesn't damage the meat of the fish. It doesn't rip their bellies open with something this big, and you're not yanking through the water. There's no point to go yanking through the water to get this thing to dig into a fish. They are going to grab it. I promise you, they'll grab it. You'll be bringing it back in the nose, in the top of the lip, in the back of the tongue a lot of the time when you're fishing with this setup. I hope this helps you guys out. Again, get the skinny yarn or the fat yarn. Either one works. I'm going to explain to you guys real quick on this setup what we do during a barometric pressure change. In this video, The other videos, I don't have that. All you're gonna do when you see that pressure changing, you're gonna need to watch that video because it takes a while to understand the pressures. I have a video that shows you how to find the chart and how to understand those pressures. But when the pressure is changing, those fish go down low into the low spots of the river and they hug the bottom. They go behind structure, trees and rocks, or along the edges of the river in the shallower water to get out of that buildup of that pressure. It makes their air bladders make them feel tired. They have no energy to be active. And so they go into those areas to get out of it. And this has to go down lower. I have this set up to float up here above their eyes when they're 2 to 4 inches off the bottom. When the pressure is bad, they hug the bottom. Their face is now down a couple inches off the bottom. They're not up 4 to 6 inches anymore. So what we do is we get this, instead of going over their heads, to present down lower, down to here instead of up here, by taking this float off, just like that. You just pull your cheater off, and on my chart, the next thing down that's going to sink down just a little bit lower than a cheater is called a Corky. Same size, number 12. We're not changing sizes. We're just going in here and grabbing a black Corky. And part of the reason is the shape of it cuts through the water better, but it actually weighs a little bit less and it is actually a little bit smaller. And so it sinks just a little bit farther under that water line than the cheater does. So on my chart, this floats at this height, A, and the cheater with the Corky, the hook with the Corky floats here, the cheater floats here. The bead comes down here. So a lot of times I will just switch over to a Corky from my cheater, and that's enough to get it down closer to those fish in that particular area I'm fishing. And remember, all the river beds are different everywhere. So if this doesn't work, you'll see us in our videos on our barometric pressure training days where we'll take and switch over from a cheater or a Corky, and we get into our beads. Over and put the small bead on there. That's all you have to do. And then that's going to sink down here and get you more hookups with the small bead on there. That GoPro overheats for no reason. So this is a clear bead, one small number 12. Just keep it with the number 12. Let's go through it just like that. And switch it over to the small bead. Okay, so just like that, you switch it over and put the small bead on there. That's all you have to do. And then that's going to sink down here and get you more hookups with the small bead. Okay guys, so here's your double bead one, okay? We've got double beads on here. I love this setup right here. I've been catching fish with this. It works really good. It's a little bit less buoyant than a full 12 mil bead because it's a little smaller, cuts through the water better, and it really gets down to where those fish are down in those low dips in the river when the barometric pressure is changing. Go ahead and watch that video. It's going to explain to you why and when and where you're going to change for those fish, and why we have charts that are live on your phone now that you can download and see when it's changing, and you can see the history of it for 3 days, so you know what's coming and you can see what it's doing as it's doing it. So you're going to know when to change up. Pre-tie these things with beads, pre-tie them with Corkies, pre-tie them with cheaters, and then you'll have all that stuff ready to change up when you get to the field, so to speak, and start fishing. If you're not ready when you get there, it's going to be time consuming to try and change all this out, although you could pre-tie just your hooks, and when you get there, pop on whatever you want to use. It's your choice, but if you want to catch more fish, you've got to keep your line in the water. And remember, I'm always testing your stuff. What you have here, real quick before I go, these are test berries. These are a light colored foam that I'm ordering to test to see if I can find something to share with our group that goes fishing with us, and you guys too, and we can maybe come up with something that is going to even beat out my other setup, something that makes those fish really pop. So I will let you know. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and hit your notifications on your YouTube settings and in your device that you're watching the videos on. Have a good day and catch more fish.